In November 1922, deep in the Valley of the Kings, archaeologist Howard Carter made a discovery that would shake the world. The tomb of Tutankhamun, the boy pharaoh, was nearly intact after more than 3,000 years. Inside, magnificent artifacts, gleaming jewelry, and the golden sarcophagus of a young king rested silently, untouched by time. But it didn't take long for the euphoria of the discovery to give way to fear. An enigmatic message, inscribed inside the tomb, seemed to warn intruders. Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the pharaoh's rest. Shortly afterward, a series of mysterious deaths began to haunt those involved in the excavation. What had initially been dismissed as mere superstition started to feel much more real. The world began to wonder, were these coincidences, or had the curse of the pharaohs been unleashed? The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb was a milestone in modern archaeology. At a time when many believed the Valley of the Kings had already revealed all its secrets, Howard Carter, a determined and meticulous archaeologist, persisted in his search for something unexplored. Funded by Lord Carnarvon, a British aristocrat passionate about Egyptian history, Carter spent years excavating the region, facing skepticism, criticism, and financial difficulties. Finally, on November 4, 1922, perseverance paid off. Carter's team uncovered a staircase leading to a sealed door bearing the royal cartouches of Tutankhamun. The excitement was palpable. The intact entrance suggested that the tomb, unlike so many others looted over the centuries, remained untouched. When the door was opened, what they found was nothing short of breathtaking. The interior of the tomb was filled with golden artifacts, statues, furniture, jewelry, and ceremonial objects, all designed to accompany the young pharaoh on his journey to eternity. Among these treasures was the solid gold sarcophagus containing the mummy of Tutankhamun, a pharaoh who had ruled Egypt between the ages of 9 and 19. Tutankhamun was an enigmatic figure. Despite being a relatively insignificant pharaoh in terms of political or military achievements, he became one of the most iconic figures of ancient Egypt due to the preservation of his tomb. His early death at the age of 19 left a trail of mystery. Modern studies suggest he may have died due to health complications, such as malaria, or even from a fatal accident. Others believe in political conspiracies leading to his assassination, an idea supported by tensions within his court. However, the fascination with the tomb wasn't limited to its riches. Soon, rumors began circulating about a possible curse associated with disturbing the burial site. These rumors were rooted in the Egyptian belief that the dead needed to rest in peace to attain the afterlife. Any disruption of this rest could trigger divine punishments. Howard Carter was skeptical of such stories and focused on the archaeological work. But Lord Carnarvon, his financier, began showing signs of unease. He was present when the tomb was first opened, as Carter illuminated the interior with a candle and declared, "I see wonderful things." It didn't take long for the curse to make headlines. Shortly after the tomb's opening, Lord Carnarvon was bitten by a mosquito on his cheek. What seemed like a trivial incident turned into an infection that quickly led to his death. The news shocked the world. Reports claimed that at the exact moment of Carnarvon's death, the lights in Cairo inexplicably went out. Moreover, the alleged warning text found in the tomb, "Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the pharaoh's rest," was widely publicized, though it was never officially recorded by archaeologists. Whether true or not, the phrase fueled popular imagination about the idea that something supernatural had been awakened alongside the young pharaoh. Carnarvon's tragedy was only the beginning of a series of strange events. Other members of the team began to report feelings of unease, accidents, and even deaths. What initially seemed like an archaeological triumph was quickly turning into a tale of terror for the era. In addition to the deaths, reports of strange events began to circulate. Local workers spoke of inexplicable noises coming from the tomb at night, as if something or someone were moving inside. Carter dismissed these reports, but the tension grew. Even those who did not believe in the curse began to wonder if the boy pharaoh had been irreversibly disturbed. The discovery of Tutankhamun was not just a scientific victory, but also the starting point for a mystery that would persist for generations. Was the curse real, or was it the product of a time eager for sensationalism? The questions piled up, and the answers continued to elude. The curse of Tutankhamun began to take shape as inexplicable events multiplied. Lord Carnarvon's death was just the start of a series of tragedies that struck those who had somehow been involved in the discovery or had come into contact with artifacts from the tomb. A few months after Carnarvon's death, the chemist analyzing the jewels and artifacts from the tomb was found dead in his laboratory. The medical report indicated accidental poisoning, but many began to link his death to the curse. Howard Carter's personal secretary, a man considered healthy and active, suffered a sudden collapse and died shortly thereafter. What made these cases even more frightening was the lack of concrete explanations for the causes of the deaths, which seemed to occur unexpectedly and incomprehensibly. Even seemingly minor events added to the myth. Howard Carter's canary, kept in the team's tent as a symbol of good luck, was killed by a snake that invaded the site. For the ancient Egyptians, the snake was a symbol of divine protection and was often associated with gods and royalty. Some local workers, already frightened by stories of the curse, interpreted this as an omen that the gods were punishing the intruders. As time passed, more deaths and unusual accidents continued to occur. One involved George J. Gould, a businessman who visited the tomb shortly after its opening. Gould died days later from sudden pneumonia, and his death was quickly added to the growing list of victims. Another intriguing case was that of Richard Bethel, Carter's secretary, who was found dead in his hotel room in 1929. The doctor recorded the cause of death as accidental asphyxiation, but the rumors of a curse persisted. The press, fascinated by the mystery and sensationalism, gave extensive coverage to each new tragedy. Headlines claimed that the curse was real and that anyone who disturbed Tutankhamun's rest was destined to suffer. At the same time, the public began to wonder, were these deaths mere coincidences, or was something supernatural protecting the tomb? Skeptics tried to offer rational explanations for the events. Some suggested that fungi and bacteria, accumulated during the thousands of years the tomb had been sealed, could have infected archaeologists and visitors, causing severe and even fatal respiratory illnesses. This theory was plausible, as the sealed tombs provided an ideal environment for the proliferation of harmful microorganisms. Another hypothesis pointed to the release of toxic gases that had built up in the closed chambers. However, these explanations could not account for all the events. How could sudden deaths that didn't involve direct contact with the tomb or its artifacts be explained? Why did some people closely involved in the excavation, like Carter, remain unharmed while others succumbed? Furthermore, there were reports of phenomena that defied logic. Excavation workers spoke of whispers coming from the tomb at night, as if invisible voices echoed through the stone walls. Visitors reported a sense of oppression and chills when approaching the artifacts or Tutankhamun's mummy. Egyptian beliefs about death and the afterlife also contributed to the mystery. Ancient pharaohs were buried with texts and spells designed to protect them from intruders. One of the most well-known texts, the Book of the Dead, described rituals and curses that could be invoked against those who disrespected eternal rest. Could it be possible that these ancient rituals still held some power, even thousands of years later? Meanwhile, Howard Carter remained steadfast in his skeptical stance. He believed the deaths were the result of tragic coincidences, and that the idea of a curse was fueled by superstition and sensationalism. However, even Carter could not escape the growing pressure of the rumors. In his diary, he noted feeling of strange unease as he observed how so many people around him were struck by misfortune after the tomb's discovery. The conflict was clear. Science and logic struggled to explain the inexplicable, while the myth of the curse continued to grow, fueled by mysterious deaths and a profound fascination with the unknown. Tutankhamun, a pharaoh who had died young and whose story seemed destined for obscurity, now appeared to wield a power that transcended time and space, casting doubt on everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. After all, was it all a matter of bad luck and coincidence, or had the boy pharaoh truly awakened something supernatural when removed from his eternal slumber? The questions remained unanswered, as the mystery increasingly enveloped Tutankhamun's story and his cursed tomb. As the rumors of the curse spread, the mystery reached its peak. What began as a series of unexplained deaths had turned into a global phenomenon, challenging both science and popular beliefs. The discovery of Tutankhamun, which should have been an archaeological triumph, was now shrouded in a veil of fear and uncertainty. The tension escalated with a series of disturbing events. In 1926, Hugh Evelyn White, one of the first Egyptologists to visit the tomb, was found dead under circumstances that raised even more suspicions. He had taken his own life, but left a note that read, "I have succumbed to a curse that cannot be defeated." This detail was enough to reinforce the belief that something dark had been awakened. Meanwhile, the media fueled the frenzy with increasingly fantastical stories. Newspaper headlines claimed that the curse of the pharaohs was real, bringing up ancient Egyptian texts that mentioned divine punishments for those who disturbed the eternal rest of the kings. Reports of whispers, laments, and visions within the tomb began to circulate, creating an atmosphere of mystery that seemed inescapable. At the same time, science sought concrete answers. Researchers began investigating the effects of microorganisms and toxic substances present in the tombs. An analysis revealed that spores of fungi such as Aspergillus niger and Aspergillus flavus, commonly found in closed and damp places, could cause fatal infections in individuals with weakened immune systems. Even so, this explanation did not seem to account for all aspects of the mystery. Another event that intensified the narrative's climax was the death of Richard Bethel, Howard Carter's personal secretary. In 1929, he was found dead in his London apartment. Although the medical report indicated accidental asphyxiation, rumors arose that he might have been another victim of the curse. Shortly afterward, Bethel's father, Lord Westbury, committed suicide by jumping out of a window. He left a note expressing fear that his family was doomed by the discovery of the tomb. What made the mystery even more intriguing was the contrast between the curse's alleged victims and those who seemed immune to it. Howard Carter, the expedition leader, lived until 1939, dying of natural causes at the age of 64. He remained firm in his skepticism until the end, asserting that the curse was a creation of the press and that the deaths were nothing more than unfortunate coincidences. However, even Carter could not escape the strange events surrounding his discovery. One of his diaries, analyzed decades later, revealed a curious note: "The voices of the valley do not leave me in peace." It is unclear what he meant by this, but many interpret it as a reference to the oppressive atmosphere and the stories surrounding Tutankhamun's tomb. At this point, the conflict between science and superstition reached a critical moment. Skeptics argued that the curse was a myth created by a combination of coincidences, sensationalized reports, and the Western fascination with the exoticism of ancient Egypt. On the other hand, those who believed in the curse pointed to the long list of deaths and unexplained events as evidence that something supernatural was at work. However, the true climax of this story lies in the reflection it provokes. Tutankhamun, a minor pharaoh who lived a short and tragic life, became an immortal figure, carrying a legacy that transcends time. His tomb, designed to be his eternal refuge, ended up becoming a symbol of human mystery and our constant struggle to understand the unknown. The doubt persists: what truly happened to those who dared to disturb the boy pharaoh's rest? Was it merely a series of coincidences, or something beyond human comprehension? The answer, if it exists, remains sealed, just as Tutankhamun's tomb was for thousands of years. The climax of this narrative is not just the battle between science and superstition, but the lasting impact this mystery has had on the world, igniting our fascination with the unknown and the power of the past. Over time, the curse of the pharaohs became one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Scientists continue to attempt to explain the events with rational hypotheses, but the sequence of unexplained deaths and the mysticism surrounding Tutankhamun remain intriguing. For the ancient Egyptians, eternity was the ultimate reward. Tutankhamun, despite his premature death, achieved something no other pharaoh did: immortality in the collective imagination. His tomb, filled with riches and enigmas, transformed him into one of the most remembered pharaohs in history. Yet, at the same time, its inscriptions seem to warn: the sleep of the dead must not be disturbed. It is impossible to ignore the feeling that perhaps the secrets of the pharaohs are beyond our comprehension. The story of Tutankhamun invites us to reflect on the fragility of our understanding when faced with the unknown. Was the curse of the pharaohs merely a set of extraordinary coincidences, explainable by science? Or is there something deeper and more supernatural behind the events that haunted the explorers of the Valley of the Kings? One thing is certain: even thousands of years after his death, Tutankhamun continues to evoke fascination and mystery. Perhaps this is what the pharaohs always desired, that their names would never be forgotten. And you, do you believe the curse is real? Or is it merely a myth that has endured through time? The enigma of Tutankhamun remains, challenging logic and feeding our curiosity about the unknown.